Now we got it right. Good evening. I'm Janice Pascal Brooks with Live 365 station, Boss of Real Country. We've been in business now for about 7.5 years. We broadcast traditional country, western, western swing, bluegrass, and honky tonk. Tonight's loose discussion is involved with a group that we hope to organize to give more attention to western swing, and pure country music. I attended my first convention for the Academy of Western Artists back in March, and there was a discussion to try and get more emphasis on this music. I'm learning that there are about 400 stations or disc jockeys at stations around the country at least that broadcast western, traditional country, or western swing in their rotation. You won't find those up in the end of the dial with all the commercial stations. A lot of us are volunteers, or like myself, we run internet stations. Our purpose is to get a group together to get more exposure and easier access to DJs and artists who program this sort of thing. My experience, not just in western and swing, but even in bluegrass, is nobody does everything the same. And you never know how you're going to get your product. Some people are willing to budget for hard copies, some are not. And I'm fortunate that it doesn't bother me to get online copies. Now, the difference between us and the bluegrass people is bluegrass people have been doing it for a number of years, and a lot of them are dedicated to a system called Airplay Direct. You go there, you can get anything that is on a label that's major for bluegrass. And they give discounts and training to new folks who want to start a page. A few of the folks here in the country and western side have used them, but they've also used Radio Direct. Some of them send their files by Dropbox. And some people do trade albums when we go to festivals and so forth. What I would like to see is a more even distribution and to see that everybody's getting covered. I've had a couple of chats with people. One is a new artist who really did his homework. He went out there and got lists from the Western people, from the Ameripolitan people, and the freeform American radio folks of DJs. And he's also got a specific system for downloads and is not going through the major outlets with hard copies. Hard copy of his album, you're going to write him direct. And that album, Michael Dart and the Skyline Ramblers, is probably going to be at or near the top of my list for this year. And a story about how I found it. Back in January is the time that the Ameripolitan and the AWA final lists are coming out for voting. I happened to spot his album on there and the Rizdales, and I paid for them for broadcast. I do pay for some albums for broadcast because it means a lot to me to get the people out there, or sometimes I like liner notes. On the other hand, using AirPlay Direct, you're going to get things up to 4 or 5 weeks before release date, and depending on the day of the week, I'm going to probably get it on the air before a lot of my friends. Most of my friends that broadcast bluegrass broadcast it Thursday through Sunday. So, and I probably get close to 200 albums a year through AirPlay Direct. Okay, my other story. One of the main people with the Academy, with the one of the main people with the Western Music Association was telling me how they do their list. And they have monthly lists and deal with about 400 stations. They currently have a listing for Western music, pure Western music. They want to have a listing eventually for swing music, but not necessarily traditional country. If all goes well, I might try to get to their convention in November. Doesn't look like anybody's interested here. I did not post this publicly. I posted this as just on the society page, but I think I'll drop it over to my main Facebook and see if anybody else wants to come in and say hello. And I'm seeing Dave Martin talk about a big show over at the Opryland Hotel that he did today. See if this takes me where I want to be. I don't think it does. So, and the reason I'm working on this group is I have the time and I really have an interest in it based on what I've been doing, not only for myself, but trying to get the word around about releases. Last year, I was working in a group that was dedicated along these lines to bluegrass that fell apart over issues. And I'm hoping that some of us can hold this together. Because of the nature of this music, a lot of these folks are older than me. I don't look 56 and I admit it. But I really want to give these folks a chance to be heard and ease them through any changes that are coming with the national networks over the royalty issues. I'll be celebrating 20 years online in about 3 months. When I first came online in 1995, I went to a country music chat room on AOL. A few months later, I found what were the AOL folders, and I really started making some impact by the end of 1996 in defense of BR 549 and Johnny Cash. I've been going to Austin since 1997, and for about 7 years, I went to the Steel Guitar Show in Texas. I still go to Texas once or twice a year. I try to get to Nashville once a year. That tells you where I like my music. But I'd like to say I've met some incredible people over the past 20 years. Some I'd like to forget, but for the most part, it's taken me a lot of interesting places, from local shows where people come in all the way as far away as Las Vegas, and the connection with a friend that got me on a cruise last year to Alaska. I'm a lifelong music lover. Being born in the late 50s, I was exposed to 78s, etc. I broke a few. And I think my earliest definite memories of when music was go back to about 1962, when I was 4. I can remember mother buying Bobby Vinton records and a few things. I think one of the first things she let me choose for myself was Puff the Magic Dragon in 1963. And I still have my well-worn copy of Johnny Cash's Ring of Fire. Our local radio station, WGMR FM, came in about 1965-66, and by 1970, our whole neighborhood listened to it at times. Not particularly our house, but the renters we had at the time were big country fans. The folks across the street were country fans from way back, and my uncle and grandmother had it on quite a bit. And as far as those people across the street, when their house went up for auction, I was out of town, but my great uncle surprised me on behalf through my grandmother and got me what was left, what they were selling of their records. And that includes some 78s to go back to the 30s and 20s from members of the Country Music Hall of Fame. I may never be able to play them again, but I'm not going to get rid of them. Okay. I don't think I'm going to stick around much longer. It's good to be back at this. I'm actually going to try and clean my desk and reorganize the office a little bit, but I'll probably still use the backdrop. So, for now, good night.